During maintenance, a worker reached toward the mechanism of an escalator to inspect it. However, the electrical power had not been fully disconnected. The mechanism suddenly activated, trapping the worker's hand inside. This incident shows how failing to fully cut power during maintenance can lead to severe injuries. For escalators, elevators, and similar systems, the lockout-tagout procedure must always be applied before any maintenance begins. At a busy construction site, a worker was unloading materials from a truck's engine area. At the same time, a nearby hydraulic grab was transferring other loads onto the truck. While the operator focused on the load, the grab mistakenly moved toward the area where the worker was standing. This event emphasizes the need to establish clear safety zones around heavy machinery. Workers should never enter these areas without direct communication with the operator, and operators must always check their surroundings before any movement. In a factory, a press machine had malfunctioned. Two workers approached to inspect it. The machine appeared to be stopped, but power had not been fully isolated. As one worker bent down to take a closer look, the press suddenly activated, creating a dangerous situation. This incident shows that checking a machine without proper energy isolation can be deadly. Before any maintenance or cleaning, lockout-tagout must always be applied. A stopped machine should never be assumed safe. A child tried to climb onto a large tractor tire that was standing upright against a wall. However, when the center of gravity shifted, the tire lost balance and toppled forward, creating a serious hazard. This event reminds us that large objects with a risk of tipping should never be left standing vertically. Heavy items such as tires, pipes, or cylinders should be stored horizontally or secured with supports and barriers. At a rest area in China, the driver and assistant of a parked gas tanker were inspecting a possible leak. However, the leaking gas came into contact with a flame, and the tanker caught fire within seconds due to sudden ignition. This incident highlights the critical importance of following strict safety procedures during maintenance of tankers carrying flammable gases or liquids. If a leak is detected, the area must be evacuated immediately, all ignition sources removed, and intervention performed only after grounding the tanker using explosion-proof equipment handled by trained personnel. At a construction site, a mobile crane operator was preparing for a lifting operation. As the operator began extending the boom, the vehicle's center of gravity shifted, and the crane started to tip toward the direction of its outriggers. This incident highlights the critical importance of proper outrigger positioning on mobile cranes. Before lifting, the crane must be level, the outriggers fully extended, and placed on solid ground. If the surface is unstable, reinforcement plates should be used, and no one should stand near the crane during operation. In a factory workshop, an overhead crane was being used to lift a large and long metal frame. The load was not yet fully secured when the crane started lifting. The frame suddenly shifted and lost balance. One of the workers instinctively tried to steady it by hand, narrowly avoiding a serious accident. This incident reminds us of the fundamental rule of crane operations: never stand under a suspended load. Workers must stay clear of the lifting line, and if guiding is necessary, it should be done with a tag line. The load's center of gravity must be calculated before lifting, slings securely fastened, and communication maintained at all times. Late at night, a woman tried to enter through a locked door. Instead of waiting for help, she picked up a stone from the street and broke the glass panel, then reached inside to try unlocking the door. When that failed, she kicked the door, and her foot was cut by the sharp edges of the broken glass. This incident shows that attempting to enter by breaking glass carries both physical and legal risks. Broken glass can cause deep cuts and infections, and such an act may be considered unlawful entry. The safest solution is to seek help or call a professional locksmith. In a manufacturing workshop, a worker was operating a molding press. During the process, he reached into the danger zone of the machine to adjust a piece of material. At that exact moment, the press cycle started, and the upper plate descended rapidly. This event shows that interfering with moving machine parts can be fatal. Before making adjustments, cleaning, or inspection, the machine must be completely stopped, power isolated, and lockout-tagout applied. Press machines should have light barriers, two-hand control, and fixed guards, all of which must be tested before each shift. In a metal fabrication workshop, a forklift operator lifted a heavy cylindrical metal piece. While transporting the unbalanced load, the operator turned and accidentally struck a stack of pipes. The impact caused a small spark, and the panicked operator jumped out of the vehicle. The forklift continued moving backward on its own. When the operator tried to approach and stop it by hand, the forklift began to tip sideways, leaving the operator dangerously close to the falling machine. This incident reminds us of one of the most critical mistakes made during forklift accidents. Never jump off a moving vehicle. The operator should remain in the cab with the seatbelt fastened. Unstable loads must never be carried without proper attachments, and a runaway forklift should never be stopped manually. Learn from mistakes. Subscribe for daily safety videos.